Evening, everyone. Hello, thank you for joining us. Welcome, Lisa.
Hello, lovely to be here.
So we've got Lisa Bedlow.
Hello, yeah,
Bedlow with us tonight. And Lisa's talking about Wabi Sabi Love, Ho'oponopono, and Dr Emoto. And I know in the post that I put on today about that, obviously I know Ho'oponopono, but we can always learn more. And Dr Emoto, but I don't know anything about Wabi Sabi Love. And so, yeah, I just happened to see Lisa do a funny live video quite a while ago now, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, I think May time probably. And so I said, would you like to do a talk for us? Because I would be really interested to know about Wabi Sabi Love. Even sounds exciting, funny, happy, doesn't it?
It does.
So yeah, that's what Lisa's going to be talking to us about tonight, and thank you very much. Looking forward to this, Lisa.
Me too. I think it's just a nice opportunity to talk about things that I'm passionate about, that you obviously have a shared interest in as well, and obviously lots of other people here to sort of listen in and ask any questions, because I'm not saying I'm an expert, I'm just saying I'm passionate about it and I love using it. So yeah. So what do you want to kick off with? Should we start with the Ho'oponopono, or do you want to start with the Wabi Sabi?
Completely up to you, whatever you feel drawn to say about first.
Well, I guess.
And why did you decide to do all three?
Well, yeah, I mean, because funnily enough, so my background, my history is teaching, head teacher, energy healing. And so anything that could help either my staff, my teams, my parents, the children, anything that could help them was just stuff that came my way. I had 15 years of head teacher, and then I gave that up 3 years ago to sort of do more one-to-one work and more specific work and children's mental health and well-being. So I think I get drawn to anything that kind of connects with me, and I guess I am quite a positive person, despite we all have tough stuff that happens in our lives, but I'm definitely someone who tends to try and twist it around into a positive, see the positives in the negatives, that sort of thing. So I guess when I came across Wabi Sabi Love was when I read this book called The Soulmate Secret, probably about 10 years ago. I went through a divorce and kind of was definitely off any kind of relationships for quite some time. The lady who wrote it is Ariel Ford.
I've had a book from her.
Ah, right. Well, she's amazing. And the gist of the book is basically, she'd been working hard all her life and then decided that it was time for her to have a lovely relationship. And she, I guess, a bit like when you're pregnant, anyone who's ever had a baby, you know that you only really think to the day of the birth. And I think she'd only thought of as far as this lovely relationship and not really much further beyond it. And then so she met the love of her life and they moved in together and they got married and it was all lovely. But then all those little niggly things started to happen. So, things like he would squeeze the toothpaste from the middle of the tube, whereas she liked to roll up from the bottom. And she said he had this thing about, lots of laughter there, so people get that one. He liked poppy seeded bread. And so he'd go into the kitchen and be, cutting his bread and all these poppy seeds would go everywhere. And so you have a choice, don't you? You can either think, oh my God, this is really irritating and this person's really bugging me, or you turn it into a positive, which is, actually, aren't I blessed? This is a reminder that, here we are. These poppy seeds are a reminder that I didn't have this man in my life before, and here he is, and so he's gone off to work, and I'm clearing up his poppy seeds. But this is a sign that he's in my life. And the one that I created, because I remember as I was reading the book, I got home from work, single mum, my kids were sort of teenagers at that point, and their shoes were all kind of twice as big as mine, massive feet. And I got home and I could hardly open the door because there were their shoes and their friends' shoes. And it was just like, oh my God, I can hardly get in the doorway. I'm exhausted. I just want to get home. And because I'd read the book, I thought, one day I'm going to come home and there won't be any shoes in the doorway except mine. There'll be mine. And of course, that's the point where I'm at now. I now, for the first time, a year ago, I moved into this house, and for the first time ever, I've lived on my own. And I got quite choked to doing that post on Facebook, because I suddenly thought, oh, this is me now. I'm I've got no messy shoes and whatever. And I'd been with a client that day who, as I was leaving her house, she said, "Oh, excuse the mess, sorry about the shoes everywhere." So I shared that story with her, and I just thought, actually, more people need to know about Wabi Sabi Love, because it is about turning those negatives into positives. And you know, we'll all have those stories, we'll all have those things where it could be irritating, which could grow and grow and manifest into something really kind of negative. But actually, let's turn it around and make it a really positive, wonderful thing. So that's kind of how I use Wabi Sabi Love. And I just think it's a really, really lovely theme to sort of remind people of day in, day out. So yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to ask any questions about that, or
anyone want to say anything about Wabi Sabi Love? I love that example, and it also brought to mind for me Byron Katie's work, The Work by Byron Katie, because that's very much an acceptance thing of how things are. Ruby's with us. Yes, that is me. I always try to find the positive in everything, and I don't know if you know Ruby, but she absolutely does.
That's lovely. And I think it's just a reminder, and that's not to say we do have off days, of course we do, but actually the more we can focus on the positives and keep remembering why. I mean, for me, definitely, you know, I wanted to have children. I love my children dearly, and now my daughter has I have 3 grandchildren, so my daughter has 3 little ones. So now when they come to the house, it's like they kind of, I call it childburst. They kind of burst into the house with all their paraphernalia, because they're only, you know, 4, 2 and baby. So, you know, there's car seats and little shoes and toothbrushes and, you know, you name it, there's baby toys and things everywhere. And it's the same thing. I just think, while they're here, I want to enjoy it, do the Wabi Sabi. Isn't it lovely that I've got this house full of noise and mess and nappies? And so there's always.
And is that what Ariel called it, the Wabi Sabi Love?
Yes. Yeah, it's Japanese. It comes from an ancient Japanese tradition, phrase, whatever. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember exactly, but so if you kind of Google it, it says it's a Japanese sort of way of looking at things. And actually the Japanese are quite good at finding those sort of positives. I can't remember the name of the thing they use when a piece of china breaks, and they fix it with the gold, and they kind of say it's even better now it's been fixed with the gold.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Celebrating and recognizing that it's not broken, it's kind of renewed in a different way. I really like that as well. I think the Japanese have got some nice sort of little phrases and sayings and things that they use. So
lovely. If anyone's got anything they want to put in the chat box, in fact we've got four things in the chat. Oh, I'm going for the mouse again. Oh yeah, that's just saying hi, because we've got someone on here from Berlin.
Oh, how lovely. Oh, amazing. Hello, nice to meet you. That's so nice.
No, I'm not used to how to use this thing, so I can't find out who it is in Germany. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us.
That's so nice. Yvonne, I think it is. Yeah, and
Yvonne, that's right.
Yeah, I haven't been online for quite some time with your things. I've had some.
Gosh, yes, you used to come on a lot. Yes.
Yeah,
lovely to see you again, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's so nice.
And had you heard of Wabi Sabi Love before?
No, I haven't. It reminds me a little bit of wasabi, which you put on the what's it called, sushi. So I thought that's an interesting name. And I used to travel a lot to Japan, so I can relate to that.
Lovely.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard of Wabi Sabi. It sounds really nice.
It's good that you have now, because I just think the more people know about it, the more they can use it. And because I do work with families and young children, it's a really great way of sharing it with people to highlight the positives. And Nina's put here about it's a good reminder that nothing is permanent. I think you're quite right there, Nina, that's true, isn't it? That let's just enjoy it and cherish it while it's there, and have it as a reminder and celebrate. So it says the Japanese is the elusive beauty in imperfection. I like that.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yes, Wabi Sabi is a Japanese. Oh, I missed that.
Don't worry. Wabi Sabi is a Japanese practice by viewing the world from an acceptance of transience and imperfection. Yeah, thanks, Ruby.
Oh, lovely. Ruby would know. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yvonne's put my sorry, Linda's put Yvonne is my soul sister from across the pond.
Lovely.
How lovely.
So you still work with children and parents?
I do, yeah. So I finished my headship 3 years ago to sort of focus on building up a career, a business around children's mental health and wellbeing, using a lot of the skills and techniques I'd learned over the years as a head teacher. Putting it, and the business is called Gabriel's Wellbeing and Education, and it's all about children, providing woodland wellbeing days and teaching them skills, strategies, techniques. So I have a one-to-one program that I've devised, which goes through techniques that I'm going to cover tonight and many more, but just ways, tools, techniques that they can use to manage their feelings and emotions. We can't stop bad things happening, we can't change the world, but we can give them various techniques that will help them manage those feelings. I'll give you one is this, the blue balloon. So an artist friend of mine painted this, and basically it's a great technique for if I was actually sharing this with a parent today, so her little boy really has trouble sleeping. So I said, you know, give him this postcard, keep it next to his bed, and then if he can't sleep, he can imagine the blue balloon in front of him and put all his worries, anxieties, fears. Often at that age, it's fear of the dark, monsters, all that sort of thing. So put your fears into the balloon, imagine it floating away, and then just keep repeating it until you feel calm enough to be able to just fall asleep or get on with your day or whatever. So that, and I still use that now myself. The day before I moved house, I couldn't get to sleep because I was stressing and worrying about if the removal men would come and the woman who was picking up the oven and all that stuff. So I literally thought, I've got these tools, right? Okay, imagine my blue balloon, put all my worries in it, let them float away. Did that a few times, and then I slept like a log. It was brilliant. So,
oh, fantastic, wonderful.
Mm.
So sorry, you carry on with what you want to share with us.
I think we can always come back to Wabi Sabi, but I'm conscious that I want to sort of talk about the other bits as well. So
yes,
the Ho'oponopono, I think it's one of those things, I kept hearing it from various different sources, but I didn't really follow it through. I knew it was a Hawaiian peace prayer. I knew it sounded nice. I knew it was sort of on my wavelength. But it was when you offered an evening, and so we talked, I think, or was it 3 evenings I think we had, didn't we? Can't quite remember now, Jackie, and we talked about the process and how it can benefit and how you can use it.
Yes.
So it's the Hawaiian peace prayer, which is, you can say in different ways, but I tend to remember it by saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can do it in any of those orders, or you can even just say, I love you, can't you now? It's sort of,
I love you and thank you are the two real main ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did your little course, and then I went on to do the actual Joe Vitale has kind of promoted it further, hasn't he? And Mabel Katz is the other lady. And
yes.
They run an online course, and Nina, I think you did it as well, didn't you? It was just really interesting, the extra stuff that can come out from it. And I just use it all the time. So things like you're driving along the road, you've got a car kind of almost up your backside. So you just look in the wing mirror, in the rear view mirror, and you just say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So the principles are you're calming your reaction down to that person. But then what starts to happen, strangely, is they start to retreat a bit and back off. It's amazing. It's like magic.
It honestly is.
I use it.
It just, what your aura must be like when you're full of fear and worries, when you just constantly go over and over in the same. But then once you put I love you into it, or gratitude into it, into those thought processes, you know, that's what I say to everyone. If you could go around the whole day thinking I love you to everything and anything, what's that putting out in the world? If everyone was doing that, just I love you, thinking I love you, instead of all this reaction or reactive, Yeah.
And you're right, that lovely, beautiful energy. And I think because I know you've worked with children, haven't you, Jackie? If you're working with children who are often quite clairvoyant, they see your aura and they're looking at us in wonder and delight and sort of seeing that lovely kind of, there's something about that lady, she's so lovely and nice, and yeah, they really do kind of notice it. So I think I'm lucky because I work with young children a lot of the time, so they are really aware of that lovely energy that I kind of exude by doing my Ho'oponopono and teaching it to them as well. So the extras,
which is wonderful,
is so I don't know if you know about the wonders of solar water. So I don't know if you can tell, that's a blue bottle. So it's
beautiful.
As far as I know, the only people who actually make this water is in Wales. It's called Tynant.
I didn't know that.
Tynant, and it's in Wales. And so on the course, he talks about how you can just use tap water. It doesn't have to be any particular. You can put distilled water in, but tap water. And then you put it on your windowsill for an hour. It's called solar water, so it has an hour of daylight, sunlight, whatever. And then it's generated with some kind of healing energies that you yourself need. But you can obviously then give that to your friends, family, put it in your tea, coffee, whatever. And I even, if I've got a plant that looks like it's dying, I'll give it a bit of blue water, solar water, just to give it a little boost. So that's another little tip: blue water, solar water in a blue bottle. Nina and I, we tracked down, didn't we, this particular source. I think you had to buy a minimum of 12 bottles, but we shared them out amongst friends, and so I now have a supply, share them with my friends. But yeah, that's a big tip. Very, very and it's I know he said it's things like you'll find if you're a bit achy in the mornings or a bit not quite right, and you start drinking the solar water, those aches tend to recede. So, and I've definitely found that for me. Nina, do you want to comment there, because I know you've been using it too?
Well, Lisa, thank you. I thought something that happened recently. I went into an old secondhand bookshop in Northumberland. I think it's one of the largest secondhand bookshops in the UK. And literally from seconds within going there, my husband picked this book off the shelf. He was like, "This one's for you." So I grabbed it, and it was this book that was published in 1979, which happens to be the year that I was born. And it's a channeled book. So it was all about healing. And it was these two ladies working together, one of them channeling, and I think the other one was writing this book through the 60s and 70s in the UK. And one of the things that they channeled, or she channeled, was about blue bottled water, solar water. So I'd learned about it through the Ho'oponopono, and then I found it in this book as well. So I was like, "Lisa, look what I found in this book." And it just I suppose it validates what we'd learned in the Ho'oponopono, and it talked about how the blue light creates antiseptic properties in the water. So yeah, there's extra validation through my channeled book that I found.
I know.
Wow, that's marvelous.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's always good to have that validation. And I've just seen we've got Shirley on here as well, because Shirley's also done the Ho'oponopono, and your cousin recently got some extra bottles, didn't she, Shirley, from Wales? So so that's, oh yeah, you've got yours. Yay, well done. Fantastic.
Wow, that's lovely to know. I'll definitely be looking at them. There was a message from Linda. I don't know if you can read it in the chat box, Lisa.
Right, let's have a look. Right, so we've had, oh yeah, Linda was about Yvonne being her soul sister. Then we've got, Florence is saying about reminds us of the worry dolls. Yes, from when we were talking about earlier about the blue balloon. Yeah, definitely. The Ho'oponopono practice, Ruby likes that. Yes, lovely. When Linda said, "I say this peace prayer to my body," when she is in trouble. And during this energy amplification, she's been upset a bit. Yes, and actually that's a really good one, isn't it? That's good for you. That's a lovely one to do, and keep reminding ourselves that we are going to be okay. And it's just, I think it is a very calming prayer to be aware of and to use frequently, you know, for ourselves and for others. And absolutely. And then, oh, somebody said, is this the water? It probably is. Sorry, I'm just worried if I click on it, I might lose you. So I might have a look at that in a minute. But if it's the Welsh Tynant, then that will be it. Brilliant. And then the other thing that he talks about is just that's got bluebells on it. So he talks about just even saying the word bluebell can be healing. So I just have that hanging up in my house just as a reminder. You know, I think Nina's got one as well, haven't you? It's just a little reminder that just even bluebells, the word bluebell and being aware of bluebells is healing. And of course, what do we all get drawn to do in the spring when the bluebells come out? Go and walk amongst them and get that lovely healing energy. And it's blue again, isn't it? Like the blue glass in the bottle, blue balloon. Funny that, isn't it? All this blue, it's very, very healing, regenerative kind of color and it's Archangel Michael. So again, very healing. And then the final thing I was going to say about the Ho'oponopono is he says about eating corn, sweet corn, corn on the cob, nachos, which are made of corn, any corn cakes rather than rice cakes, anything corn is an ancient kind of healing food. So again, I now make a point of making sure I've always got those foods in my cupboard. So that's another recommendation. Most people like corn, most people, not everybody, but yeah, so corn's a good one.
Got no memory of that bit at all.
Oh, okay. Do you remember that, Nina?
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I grew my very own sweet corn this year for the first time. I've just literally yesterday ate my first corn on the cob grown in my garden. I'm so proud.
Wow.
So
I mean, definitely about the bluebells and the blue bowls, but no, not sweet corn at all. I can't think of that at all. Anyway, wonderful. Good to know.
There you go. So that's all. Yeah, all more stuff, more lovely stuff as well. So I'll move on to the Dr. Emoto. We can always come back to these others as well. And
Absolutely.
So again, Dr. Emoto, in my very early years of starting my perhaps more spiritual journey and awareness of, you know, meditations, crystals, we were looking at crystals before we started. A friend of mine introduced me to the work of Dr. Emoto and how he studied water molecules. And when you think of it, our bodies, I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's something like 75% water, it's a high percentage anyway, is water. So when he did his research, the most famous one is the rice experiment. So he has three pots, and I've done this with children to sort of validate it. 3 pots of rice, and he puts water in each pot of rice. So he has them in a glass jar. And then he, with one jar, he writes the word or speaks to it in a way and says, I love you, and just says really loving, nice things to it. The second jar, he says really hateful, horrible things. I hate you, you're horrible, you're disgusting, and writes hate on the jar. And then the third one, he actually ignores, completely ignores. And I think he leaves it for 3 or 4 weeks. And that's certainly what I did with the students that I did it with. And the results are that obviously the one where it's getting love and kindness and kind words is sort of fermenting nicely and smells quite nice and looks quite okay. And the second one, which is all hateful and nasty, looks really kind of grey and dirty. And then the final one, which he ignores, looks really even worse, all dried up and kind of gnarly and pretty disgusting. So when I'm working with children, young people and families, I'll say to them, the phrase sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me is actually wrong. It's the wrong way around, because actually words can't be unsaid. Words, I'm sure we can all remember, even if you think back to a school day or a childhood days, somebody said something that really hurt your feelings or broke your heart or upset you or was painful. Those, they're still there. We still remember those. So actually, they are more hurtful than a stick or a stone or a bruise, which actually fades and maybe does just get forgotten about. So I think the Dr. Emoto work is something that I like to promote and talk about, because it's a reminder that, yeah, let's speak kind thoughts, kind words, kind actions. Let's be kind and gentle. And so when we have our Gabriel's Wellbeing Days, that's what we say to the children. We're here to have our kind thoughts, kind words, kind actions. Kindness ripples out in a nice way. And he also studied, he studied molecules of water when music was played. So obviously when it's lovely classical music or something really calming and loving, the molecules under the microscope look really pretty. They almost look like little snowflakes. But then when he plays something like heavy metal or a really kind of harsh sound, it looks so different and doesn't look so attractive. He also researched tears, so tears of joy, laughter, happiness, compared to tears of grief, sadness, and despair. Again, they all look different. And we did talk about this. Forgive me, because Nina and I, when we did the singing bowls a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it there, didn't we, Nina? About how that the vibration of water in our body, and that's why I think Dr. Emoto's work is then substantiated by things like singing bowls, gong healing, sound baths, all those things that we're more and more open to now and having more exposure to. And I think that's why it has such a lovely healing impact on our body. I think Adrian's here as well, because he was on that, and Lucinda. Oh, there's a few of us here that were on that course. Oh, and Karen, oh my gosh, so quite a few people. Sorry, forgive me, because I can't see everybody's thing at the same time. But yeah, so that's another really, really powerful way of just reminding people that to speak lovingly and kindly. And you know, I know most of us on this call are those kind of people, and that's why we're here. But if we can have that ripple effect and share that with people, it's a really powerful thing, really powerful tool.
I'll just go to share screen, Lisa.
Sure, yeah.
Because I was able to find this. Just showing, I mean, I expect everyone on here has seen this, but that, you know, when he froze the water and had thank you written under it, or wisdom, truth, eternal, these beautiful crystals would appear. Beautiful. I mean, it's something we could do ourselves, I guess, as well, if we wanted to experiment like that. But when you've got the awful words, you fool, or you make me sick, or evil, polluted water after a prayer. You know, it's quite incredible, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And it you know, for someone like myself who works so passionately with children, you just think, gosh, and certainly, you know, our generations were often raised by families that thought it was okay to be really negative and say horrible things to us, because they didn't. I mean, my mum will say, well, I didn't want you to get big-headed, didn't want you thinking above your station. So we were sort of told horrible things about us and that we weren't important, or you know, perhaps, you know, you look terrible and that doesn't look good. And I don't know, it was kind of accepted in those days. But now we know the physical impact on our bodies. Why would we do that to the next generation? So it's about changing old habits, forming new habits, and then sharing them with the next generation and the next generation, so that they can do the same for themselves and for others around them.
You can also get a pack of cards, the Dr. Emoto cards that
oh, I haven't seen those.
Yeah, because I did get a pack for a friend of mine for her birthday, because it was just so beautiful, all the different pictures, you know, of all the different crystals and all the different words that created those crystals. So yeah, very interesting. Really. So this is really wonderful. I mean, anything that can help us with mental health, like you say. But when you're learning Ho'oponopono, he does say, really don't look at anything else, because it confuses your inner child. You know, you can't, because I'm interested in everything. So, you know, you just can't. But overall, I think the main thing I would always use is Ho'oponopono, or that's what I've found to have used over the last few years for sure. But I was going to say as well that when I worked as a learning support assistant, invigilator, when I was doing the exams, and you could literally feel the fear or the, you know, concern from them as they would come in. Yeah. And rather than go into that and feel as an empath, you could feel that for them and think, oh my gosh, you know, I hope they're going to be all right, blah, blah, blah. But you stop all of that just by saying, I love you and thank you, over and over again in your mind. Your body, your whole body calms right down.
Yeah.
And then that's what you're giving out to them as well, isn't it? So yeah, you're absolutely right. That's just another example. Certainly as an invigilator, standing in when those main exams are on.
Absolutely.
Shirley, oh, that makes total sense. Yeah, I've missed it again and I don't know how to get it up on the
Yeah, so
chat.
Shirley's put, that makes total sense, that we feel the vibration and sound and the music through the water within our bodies. Yeah. And then I think before that, Ruby said, oh, I love sweet corn. Woohoo, I mentioned the amazing Dr. Emoto earlier. Oh, fantastic. And then Shirley's agreed about the link, I think. Thank you for that, for the water. And then Nina's, I think yesterday's Adrian, sorry, I haven't seen that message yet. So something about remind. And so Ruby said the reminder of the powerful of water practice by Dr. Emoto. Yes. Oh, right. So that's, it was Adrian that found the link. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm kind of like going upwards, but looks like we found the link for the water. So that's good too. Excellent. The other thing I was going to talk to you a little bit about was the 5 love languages, which I know we didn't put on the advert thing, but for people who know about the 5 love languages, they're another really, really powerful tool to use. And quite often when I'm coaching families, I get them to go and do the test before we start any work, because if a family understands that there's, you know, these 5 different love languages, and that we each have, I mean, we use all of them, but that we each have one that's probably our dominant love language. And by doing this quick little test, it's only a free thing on, I think you just Google love language test and do it in a couple of minutes. And you can do them for children, adults, you can do them if you're a single person or a couple. And ultimately there's the 5 love languages are your time, giving your time, touch, words, gifts, and then acts of kindness. And so the reason I like to use those as well are it really helps you to understand how different people show their love. So for me, I'm very much a tactile person, so I'm a real touchy-feely. So touch for me is one of my top ones, but so is time. I like to give people my time, my attention, and that's kind of, so those are my 2 top love languages. Whereas someone else, it might be their top love language is to give gifts, which is lovely. But if you're not someone who particularly wants loads of gifts and stuff, that you might feel like you're slightly in a different place. And certainly in a relationship, if your partner is all about acts of kindness, so they go and wash your car for you, which is really lovely, but you're someone who actually wants their time and attention, then that could again be, you know, it's just an awareness. If you know that your partner, your friend, or someone that you're working with, even colleagues, have a different love language to yours, it's just helping you to understand where they're coming from, why they display the behaviors that they display, and what they're trying to show you through that. And families often find it really helpful with their children, because, you know, if they've got a child that likes making them a cup of tea, they're showing their love by making them a cup of tea. Whereas often little children will go and, I don't know, they'll draw a picture, fold it all up, and then they'll give it to you as a present, as a gift. So again, it's understanding their love languages. So that's another tip that I would use to sort of say that's helps you kind of on your whole journey through life, relating with other people and things that we can use. And again, it's all that positive stuff, isn't it?
Can you run through those 5 again?
Yeah, it's so one is time, giving your time. One is touch, so kind of touch, but, you know, being tactile, being touchy with people. One is words, language. One is gifts, so the giving of gifts. And then one is acts of kindness.
Lovely. It was words that I'd missed out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Where did you get that from, Lisa?
So again, I spoke on a podcast a few months ago, and I was listening to the podcast before mine, and this lady had been talking about the 5 different love languages, and I thought, oh, I love that, sounds interesting. So I just went off and researched it and thought, and so since then, that was about a year ago, I've just used it so much in my work, because it's just a really powerful way of us understanding, you know, some of our closest and maybe not so close relationships with people, and what it is they're showing, how they show their love for themselves but to others. And just, yeah, I think once you know it and understand it, it helps you to respect that, especially if you're someone who likes a lot of gifts, or you give a lot of gifts and you want gifts, but actually you're not getting gifts, you're getting someone's time or someone's touch. It can kind of help you recognize and understand, oh, this isn't someone who doesn't want to buy me gifts. It's just that their first and foremost love language is acts of kindness, or, you know, whatever it is, touch. Interesting. Oh,
Definitely.
yeah. Oh, who's that with the Yvonne's got the book, look, 5 love languages. Oh, thank you for sharing it.
Oh, who's that by? Chapman, is it?
Oh, right, look, Shirley's written down here, according to Chapman, the 5 love languages are so what words of affirmation, yeah, compliments, which is the words, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, which is making a cup of tea, physical touch. Thank you, Shirley, that's brilliant.
And it's Gary Chapman, like you said.
Brilliant.
Ah, Gary Chapman. Lovely.
My daughter uses this a lot. She's working also sometimes with children. She uses this a lot.
Lovely. And have you used it as well?
Not particularly, but she has told me a lot of things, so I'm quite familiar with it.
That's great. Thanks, Yvonne. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Again, when I was a learning support assistant, I trained as an ELSA, emotional literacy support assistant. And that sounded very similar to that, because you just have to find out their best way of communication.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a really, really good point with children, particularly if you're going to be appealing to them and reaching out to them and working with them. I worked a lot with autistic children. We had an autistic resource base. And one of the most successful ways to work with autistic children is to tune into their world rather than expecting them to tune into your world. So you're right, as an ELSA, that's exactly how you start working with that child and getting the best from them. So that's really lovely. Thank you.
I really love that part of it. Has anyone got any questions for Lisa, either in the chat box or by all means unmute yourself and ask any questions? I love all of those. It's all very similar, isn't it? But it's all very meaningful. And the thing is, you know, if we're not very good at school at something, then I always remember them saying, so say you're not very good at maths, and so then everyone pressurizes the child into maths, whereas actually if they're good at English, really focus on the English and boost them up on the English, because the maths is not. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I had that very conversation with someone this weekend who was talking about their child's autism, and I said, celebrate what they're good at. You know, this child he loves numbers and he loves planets. And I said, that's great, because that's more than some people who don't love numbers and don't love planets. So encourage the things they're good at. Whereas you're right, some schools would say, oh, no, we need to push them. You know, it's the round peg in the square hole situation, isn't it? Where you're trying to force them to do something they don't want to do or don't have any passion or interest in. And then they get turned off education. And we know the education system's kind of slipping quietly down the pan, but it's not serving the children of today. They need to be encouraged to follow their hopes and dreams and aspirations and their passions and the things they really love. Shirley's got her hand up. Did you have a question, Shirley?
So I just very quickly read the information about Chapman, and he said that at the bottom of that, he said with your mate, so as in your partner in life. Yeah. But are you saying that you're using this tool with parents and children to understand if there's any sort of conflict of?
Yeah, so you can use it within the family environment so that the family understand the different dynamics of how those children show their love to their parents or each other. Or so yeah, that's kind of how I've adapted it. Because yes, you can do it for partners, friends, but actually if you can use it within a family environment as well, that's really.
Has it brought up some interesting results?
In that I think some of them kind of went, oh, that does make sense now. So I think it's made them stop and appreciate that their children perhaps, just respond and react and show their love and gratitude in different ways. So yeah, I'd say in most families I've used it with have found it really helpful and sort of thought, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. And especially, you know, for families where maybe sometimes it's often the father who maybe has very high expectations of how the children should behave, whereas I think the mother's often a bit more nurturing. That's not in every case, but the families I've worked with recently. And so when you raise something like this, it helps the father to understand, okay, so I'm expecting my child to show it the way that I show it, but actually my child might show it in a different way. You know, there's 5 different ways of showing your love. And so actually, you know, the one particular father I can think of right now, it really did help him to have a better relationship with his son, because he was expecting his son to mirror his love language. So yeah, it has been really, really, really good.
That sounds a really interesting tool. I hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd slip that one in tonight as well. Because basically, as you know, I glean lots of different tools that have worked over the years for me. The other thing I've got here is it's a big jar, and I take this to families' houses and I say, you know, what am I grateful for? So a family can each put something they're grateful for into the jar, either on a daily basis, a weekly basis. I have a personal one that's a yearly. So I have a jar, and at the end of the year, New Year's Eve, I tip it all out and I can see all the amazing, grateful things that have happened to me in this year. But it's a good one, again, to use with families if there's a lot of conflict and things that they, you know, because again, some families will say, oh, well, the children aren't grateful. And I'm thinking, that's a tricky one, because we can't really expect our children to be grateful if they don't know any different. So, you know, for some children today, they're really lucky. They go on amazing holidays that maybe the parents might say, well, we didn't have holidays like that when we were small. They should be grateful. But actually, to a child, they don't know any different. So by using the jar, they can all, you know, the parents can say, well, we're really grateful because we didn't have holidays like this when we were small. And the children might say, well, I'm really grateful because I really love the swimming, or I love the sandy beach, or whatever it was. So again, it's highlighting how each member of the family might interpret that holiday experience. The youngest one, it will be something like, oh, I loved the aeroplane food because that's something they've never had before, or, you know, so it's just recognizing and understanding different people's interpretations of what is their highest sort of gratitude point of the day or the month or the year.
Lucinda's saying, I came to the water talk that I hosted recently, and Jeremy was also talking about using blue bottles to energize the water. So it's a real theme, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Lucinda.
Thank you. That's really good, because I think it's true. The more we can spread this and share it, the more people are going to benefit from it. So yeah, thanks, Lucinda. That's really good to know.
I've got my blue bottle in the kitchen window. I never thought to bring it up with me.
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, I just happened to bring it as a reminder, but
oh yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, and to Adrian for sharing the link.
Yes.
So should we have a talk about self-love?
Yeah, let's have a talk about self-love, because again, I think from everything that's kind of led up to this is the fact that we, again, our generation generally have perhaps not been encouraged and nurtured to have self-love and to see that as, I mean, I can only use my own example, because my mother was not someone who encouraged self-love, because that was seen as being selfish. And I think probably a number of people, I've only recently in the last 2 years discovered what a narcissist truly is. And I read some books and suddenly thought, oh, okay, my mother was a narcissist. So I've had to understand that it is okay to love myself. But it's, you know, I'm 56. It's taken me kind of 55 years to really, truly believe that it's okay to love myself and feel worthy of things. So yeah, self-love is incredibly powerful. It's a really, really useful thing. And for children particularly, you know, the more we can get them feeling that at the youngest age, and understanding, recognizing that, of course, you have to love yourself. It's really, really important to love yourself, because until you love yourself, how can you really love others, and how can you expect them to love you? And I'm a living proof of that one, because it's, if you don't love yourself, you end up, it's like that energy exchange. If you're both quite low energy, low vibration, you're going to be attracted to people on that same low self-esteem. Whereas if now I've worked on myself, and my kind of energy's up here, I wouldn't even be attracted to someone down there anymore, because they're on a completely different vibration. So, you know, the higher you can love yourself and the more energetic you can get that, then the more likely you are to be, you know, like the magnet, attracting someone of the same vibration. So I think, yeah, self-love, huge, massive. And I think for me, working with children and families, trying to break traditions, trying to break habits. And it's really hard to say to people, maybe your parents didn't get it right. You know, your parents just did what they thought was the best thing at the time, like my mother. But actually, we can do it even better for our children and the next generation, and for our friends. And so if we can encourage each other to love ourselves and be what's the word, be reiterating that and affirming it and saying it's okay to love yourself, and that's what we need to do. And that's back to the kind thoughts, kind words, kind actions. You know, not I had a friend years ago who used to go and have a facial once a month, and I used to think, my God, you know, can't believe she's going off and having a facial every month. You know, that's really selfish, because that was my thinking at the time. And now I think, well, good for her that she was making time for herself, because I had always thought that was a bad thing. I was raised to think that putting myself first was a really bad thing. That was selfish and mean and whatever. But actually, I've had to completely reprogram myself and really think differently. And I know, you know, that I've recently written a chapter in, I'm going to plug my book, Strong and Free, Volume 2. It's just one chapter, but in the book, I kind of touched on that and how, you know, but just because it wasn't great in my childhood, I don't want that to carry on for the next generation. So yeah, self-love, really, really crucial. And the more we can encourage children and our friends and their friends and everybody around us, the happier the world is going to be. And that comes from actually all of those things we've talked about tonight. Brings it all together really nicely into a little ball of loveliness.
It honestly does. Yeah, wonderful. I remember a video that I saw, possibly on YouTube, where a teacher would have, I think it was like probably 5 languages of love, but it was like you could do a fist pump, you could do a cuddle,
Yes.
A shake of hands.
Yeah.
They had to pick up the card of what they wanted as a greeting that morning.
Love
and
that.
That's what they would do. And then it just showed them all going in. That was just a beautiful, you know, really appreciating that they've got their own feelings.
Yes.
Then they understand that their feelings mean something and they mean something.
Yeah.
Oh, what a way to bring children up like that.
Absolutely. And I used to try and do that with the just saying the register every day, because there's nothing more boring than just going, yes, Mrs. Bedlow, you know. So I would say things like, you know, what's your favorite food? And I had one child in my class who was a selective mute, so she wasn't going to talk. So I would often do the high five, or that, you know, we'd do an action one where we could do a wave instead of saying. So you're right, the more we can vary things and the more we can bring in them, letting them have a voice, because so much of education it currently is not actually letting the children have a voice where they can express themselves. And I think even down to part of something that I've kind of learned a lot about recently with the trauma-informed approach and the adverse childhood experiences is it's okay to express your anger. Because I think for, again, another generation, we've kind of, it was almost a bad thing to express your anger. So actually it's then sitting within your body, festering like a shaken up bottle of Coca-Cola. And at some point that's got to be opened. So we want children to say, I'm angry, but give them ways to express that anger so that it's okay. We still love you, even though you feel anger. Obviously, we don't want you to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, but it's okay to feel angry. And maybe we can just do a really angry picture and scrunch it up and burn it. Or maybe we can, you know, go out and scream in the playground, or just give them a technique and something that can let that anger out, because they're entitled to have those feelings and emotions. So you're right.
And not make them wrong for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
And the feeling of guilt and shame for having those emotions. And I've only, you know, it's literally only in my last few years that I'm realizing the damaging impact that had on me as a child, just never being able to express any of my feelings and emotions, almost to the point where there is no, you know, I mean, yes, I'm very loving and caring, but actually I still struggle to get angry because I was never allowed to be angry as a child. So,
yes,
you know, it's something that I'm trying to kind of express, because that's just as important, isn't it? That it's okay to be angry, and we are the role models to the children and the next generation. So yes, we don't be angry all the time, but it is okay. So I'll say to my grandson, okay, I understand why you're angry. Yes, I'd be angry at that too. let him be angry and then move on to something else. So yeah, I think that is all a big part of the whole self-love and self-belief, and but also carrying on and being in a loving world and being kind to others too.
Wonderful. I don't know if you can catch up with the chat box,
Right,
Lisa,
let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look. Right.
because I think there is some things on there. And just while you're looking at that, I'll just say that my son last week was very angry at a situation that arose last week, and he was very angry, and so I did accept that he was angry. I said it's good to be angry, and we all get angry, and you know, but I don't like how he was I didn't like how he was speaking to me.
Yeah.
Actually, he'd had an operation 2 days before, and he'd had the anaesthetic, and so it was so out of character, but I didn't put the two together.
Yeah.
But then Sharon, my friend, said, you know, how that can affect. So yeah, I totally said to him, of course, be angry. It's good to get the anger out, but don't get the me, because it was so uncalled for. But to have that understanding that it could well have been because apparently the anaesthetic can have a reaction for you for about 3 months, she said.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, like you said, it's out of character, and yet we sometimes don't. It's like often parents will say, oh, my child, there's this and there's that, and then they go down with chickenpox or some kind of illness, and it's the same kind of principle, isn't it? That it's because we forget to look at the wider holistic approach and think what's causing this and what might have happened. And also, not that I want to get deeply into this, but often at school it would be children who've been experiencing or are still experiencing some kind of domestic abuse or household, you know, some kind of abuse. But they can't express that because they've been told to keep quiet and not talk about it. So it comes out as anger or violence or aggression of some sort because they don't know how else to get that out of their bodies. So very interesting. And the same with even with the anaesthetic, you know, that's coming out as some kind of almost like a cleansing process, isn't it? Let it out, get it out.
Yeah. I mean, once I had that understanding, so we're learning all the time. We never stop learning, do we?
So true. It's so true. Right. So quickly at the chat, Ruby said, another amazing thing about the blue glass, it increases the oxygen frequency of the water, allowing the water to stay fresher and cleaner for longer in the bottle. These bottles do not get all yucky inside unless you're putting other things into them. And that is very true, actually. When I give people this water when they come to my house, they always say, oh, your water tastes really nice. And it is just the blue solar powered water. So that's, thank you. Yeah, and then Nina's put, that's interesting. And then Yvonne said, Emoto's written, oh, a little story about water for children. I have to check my computer to find it. Oh, I'll look that up. And thanks, Shirley. She's put the link of the Strong and Free book. Yvonne said, beat on pillows. Yeah, that's a good one as well. So, and apparently Tim Wilde said something important about self-love. Oh, okay, that's from Linda. Oh, thank you, Linda. Do you want to talk to us about that? That would be great.
I wrote it in my diary. I was so impressed.
Oh, thank you.
He said, and he said it recently. One of the most powerful acts of an awakened soul is to focus on self-love. This is the key to our higher building process, as it is literally the key to everything that we manifest within our reality. Until the internal mechanisms are fixed and realigned with love, every projection that we send outwards will be governed by older programs.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it just sort of sums up everything that we're just saying, isn't it? That's
Yes.
really, yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Very powerful.
Have you done anything around the inner child, Lisa? Like, have you done any courses or anything within the?
I haven't done courses, but I have had some work with it with a couple of healing friends around the healing of the inner child. That's incredible, and it has really helped me to back to the self-love, really, to go back to who I am from source, and the fact that I am valued, valuable, and I'm here with a purpose, and to recognize that and see it and now move forward with that, because I think for so much of my life it's I've just been giving out to everybody else. Almost like they say, it's like you're breathing out, but actually you have to breathe in. And now I'm finally breathing in through the work on the inner child. And it has been quite transformative for me to see that, yeah, it is okay to do that work and feel good about myself and work on my soul purpose and keep moving forward and knowing it's okay to be fluid on that you might achieve one goal and then move away. Because actually the business I've been working on for the last 3 years, at Christmas I'm kind of stepping away from that and leaving it with my colleagues because I feel ready for a new adventure. So yeah, the inner child work is now making me recognize I've done that, I've gone as far as I can with that project, and now I can move on to something else. So yeah, very exciting.
Beautiful. Well, the girl I'm speaking to a lady in Sydney, Australia on Friday. And she will be talking to someone and their inner child will come out and she can have a conversation with their inner child.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it just opens your mind to the sort of things that can be quite
that.
incredible. Yeah. So she's quite an incredible family. Yeah, there's 8. She's got 8 children and the 2 of them 10. So yeah, and they're all in connection with extraterrestrials and in the last few years, but now she's documenting everything because it's been so eye-opening and so incredible. But yeah, for her to say that she can now, you know, be speaking to someone and the inner child will come out of that person and talk to her. So we'll have quite a conversation about that. But I mean, the inner child comes up, I find, you know, self-love, inner child and Ho'oponopono very connected and all very, very important. But yeah, I love having any more tools put in the box, and this 5 languages of love. And Wabi Sabi.
Wabi Sabi Love, yes. I've got a friend who calls it Wabi Mama. She can't say Wabi Sabi.
Many thanks, Linda, for sharing the amazing Tim Wilde's words of wisdom. Brilliant. And Shirley has done a course recently on inner child. Oh, really?
Yes, Shirley, tell us a little bit about the work you've done, if you're happy to.
Thanks, Nina.
You've done a course on it, Shirley.
Yeah, I'm just finishing it now, actually. It's absolutely fascinating and we've had some amazing results with it. But the idea is that all the people here today on this call could experience something and we all react in different ways. And it's all through learned behavior, like Lisa was saying earlier on about how we have different sort of behavioral patterns come from how we've been brought up and how we've experienced life. But if we experience something today, I could be triggered in one way and Lisa could be triggered in another way. So what we do is we take that emotion of that trigger and we follow that emotional thread back through childhood to find out where the root cause of that childhood trigger has come from. So it's absolutely fascinating. Sometimes people go into past life stuff, sometimes people go into the womb, sometimes people go just back to sort of toddler type age group. So it's absolutely fascinating.
And then what do you do with it? Sorry,
bring
and then
it
what
forward.
do you do with it?
So like Lisa was saying earlier on, rather than telling children, don't be angry, don't be angry, don't be angry, because it's almost like putting a plaster over the top of the scab. It's just going to sit there and fester over the years, you know, and at some stage when they're a teenager, it's going to get ripped off and they're just going to emotionally not be able to cope and be all over the place. So the idea behind this is that we call the emotion forward so that the client gets visibility of that, and then we work with that emotion. In a nutshell.
Yes, yes. But it's very, very powerful stuff, isn't it, Shirley?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. That is a bit of a contradiction with Ho'oponopono, because with Ho'oponopono, you wouldn't be looking into anything, would you? You'd literally just be saying, I love you, thank you, I love you, thank you, I love you, thank you. Is that putting some sort of lid on it, do you think?
I think they can still complement, because I think the Ho'oponopono goes alongside, because again it's about your reaction too. But if you were to do Shirley's work, you're still bringing it to the surface and kind of accepting it, almost like greeting an old friend or greeting someone that you maybe had a row with 20 years ago, and kind of going, oh, okay, right, this is how I now want to move forward. So I think they do complement. Would you say, Shirley? Oh, sorry, Nina.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I thought it is quite a good compliment, because when I use Ho'oponopono, it's often when I suddenly become really aware of a particular emotion. And I think the Ho'oponopono has almost helped me become more aware of any emotion that I want to bring forward, and then use the Ho'oponopono to sort of transmute that emotion, for want of a better.
Exactly, yes.
So, and to give an example, I think it was the first time I really felt the power of it. I had learned one morning of an old school friend passing, and I hadn't been in touch with her for a long time. And I spent the day kind of quite tearful, but I had been learning the Ho'oponopono. So I was like, okay, so literally all day, I was reciting it in my head, but very aware of the emotion that was sitting there. And it was really interesting, because by the end of the day, I just felt this total, utter peace in. And I was almost like, well, what's that? Like, where are my tears gone, and where has and I think I'd even sort of messaged like Lisa and Heidi and a couple of the others and said, like, am I covering this up? Like, what has happened? And I think it was the Ho'oponopono that had really helped to transmute that emotion. And
Transmute.
but I think
Clear and cleanse.
Yeah, clear and cleanse. But I feel that the awareness and sort of bringing that emotion forward was a really important part of it as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I think
Was there a question?
I think they are two slightly different things from the inner child work that I'm doing. You're talking about reacting in the here and now. Some of the work that I've been doing is looking at our behavioural patterns in the here and now, but actually tracing that back to maybe a childhood memory. So this week I've been working with a woman who procrastinates all the time. She said, you know, I get 80-90% through a project, and then it sits there. And she said, it's almost like I can't finish the thing to move on to the next thing. And she constantly procrastinates. And when we went through this process with her, she got this image of being in her mother's kitchen, being forced to do chores in the kitchen when all her friends were outside and playing. She'd hear the children in the street, you know, squealing and laughing and giggling and, you know, running up and down with their bikes and everything else. And she desperately wanted to be there, but she was being forced to do this. And so it was a case of she didn't want to do this work because she saw it as a chore, because it went back to her mother in the kitchen, seeing it as a chore and not taking that next step forward. So it's really sort of more about behavioural patterns than what Nina's talking about, having a one-on-one relationship with a particular person. So I think there's space for it all.
Oh,
I love it all.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Understanding the inner child is so important, I think. Yeah. And loving it and making it feel safe and secure and loved.
Yes, which is what Lucinda's put. She put, I can relate to what you say about self-love, Lisa. I've been looking at photos of myself as a child, talking to my 5-year-old self to try to love myself more, as I didn't at the time. I think a lot of us definitely feel that from our childhood. So thank you for sharing that. And then Ruby said, Nina, many thanks for letting us know about Shirley doing the Inner Child course. And many thanks, Shirley, for sharing details of the amazing Inner Child's course you've attended. And Nina, many thanks for sharing your Ho'oponopono practice. So thank you, everyone. That's brilliant. Wow.
Lovely. Thank you. Yeah, that's, well, we've covered a lot tonight, but thank you all. If anyone else has got anything else before we finish. No, that's fine. Thank you so much, Lisa. That's been absolutely lovely.
It's been lovely. That's
Really.
been interactive. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, yeah, because I think every one of us can relate to some part of that for definite. Yeah. But I think, as you say, it all comes back to self-love. I think that's just a massive thing to understand, just how vital it is for all of us to know and understand how much we need to love ourselves.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, and Linda's just put, when you're 76 years of age, it's hard to remember you were ever a child. Oh. But actually, that child is still there, isn't? I mean, yeah. Oh, bless.
Oh, Linda, your child's absolutely there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's been really lovely. I've really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. For anyone that's local, I'll just tell you that we needed to know a bit more about that book that you showed a glimpse of. I'll just ask you that in a minute. I'll just say on Thursday night, we've got the Star Teachings with Matt Bell. That's in Lyndhurst, where we're going to be laying by the cricket pavilion at 7:30, unless it's absolutely pouring with rain, but he's pretty certain. He's spoken to Star Family and they've said it's going to be a good night for seeing the stars. So he's going to explain to us, because it's spaceships. I mean, really, we've done it before and it's just incredible to watch these, but with him explaining, Matt Bell explaining what goes on. So that's really beautiful and wonderful. Adrian's going to go over to Blandford and pick Matt up and bring him out here.
Oh, well done.
Absolutely. And then the other thing, on Friday night, again, if you're local, we're gonna, anyone, so like if Lisa was local, for instance, she could come along and talk about Ho'oponopono or Wabi Sabi or Dr Emoto, or whatever she wanted to, so whatever you would want to talk about. I don't know, Nina, if you've got anything that you'd love to come, but it's just so that people locally know what sort of talents we've got around us, and to know a bit more about each other. It's an open platform to find out more about each other. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Should we just see that book again, just do a little?
Yes. There's two. There's volume 1 and this one is volume 2. It's Strong and Free, volume 2. It's kind of 15-16 women sort of just writing their story about how they've overcome adversity, and mine is really just my story of why I'm doing what I do now. So I think a couple of people have read the wrong chapter and said, oh, I loved your chapter, and then I realized that wasn't my chapter they read. So
and it's a blue flower, Lisa.
I know, a blue flower, all this blue, what's that telling us? I love it. It's great, isn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, take care.
Bye. The recording will come out tomorrow.